And you see that Logan Ryan fired his agent, and he actually got with one of the top sports agents, and he's trying to sign with the team. I didn't know Logan Ryan was still out there. I thought he got picked up.
I knew he was out there. All right, I'm ready when you are. I got my wide receivers ready to roll.
All right. Let me see. I gotta put it on PPR.
Let me go grab some water.
All right. All right. Ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1. What's going down, everybody? Welcome back to another show of ours. Today, we're going to continue on with our fantasy football rankings as far as receivers go. Hope everyone's doing fine, staying safe out there during this pandemic. Some sad news went through the, ringer the other day with the Black Panther going. That's super sad. That's why I'm wearing this hat today. I got the Jackie Robinson hat. But hopefully to get in some better news today, we got some football news to cover before we get everything started. Duran, you want to go over some of that?
Yeah, go ahead. I don't.
All right, so first off, we came out today that Yannick Ngakoue got traded to the Minnesota Vikings from the Jaguars. The picks were he got traded for a second and also a conditional 5th-round pick, which could turn into a 4th-round pick in 2022. Another one is that Logan Ryan fired his sports agent, now signed with a new agent, and hopefully to get signed immediately. He's tired of holding out. He's tired of not playing football at the moment. He wants to get into a training camp, and it looks like the top runner for him is actually the Cleveland Browns, which makes sense with their top drafted safety Grant Delpit going down for the year with no Achilles care. And then it looks like LSU star receiver Jamar Chase actually opted out, and he's eyeing the 2021 draft, which makes sense. You got a new quarterback in there. You don't have Joe Brady back there, and this year is a little bit weird, so it makes sense for him to opt out. He's already proven that he can be, a number one receiver. I think if he came out last year, he actually would have been the number one receiver chosen this year.
Yeah, I think
with that being said,
that was a good choice by him. Take this year off, and he's already proven that he's going to be a 1st-round pick. So why jeopardize that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think he has his spot solidified as the top, top receiver. You see, Rondell Moore opted out as well. So those two are, some of the top receivers out there today. So with that being said, let's go ahead and let's get started on this episode. Duran's going to go over his top rated receivers in fantasy football, and this is strictly going to be PPR, correct?
Yep. All PPR.
Yeah. Okay. It's going to be PPR based. We're just going to go in and kind of talk about the top receivers in the game today and where they kind of sit with us in our rankings, individually. I kind of ranked mine by round. I'm not too sure if you did the same thing, not in a particular order of like one through, how many receivers there are, but I just kind of did it in rounds.
Yeah, I got it in like tiers of chunks of guys that I would take from the same.
Exactly.
And however I'm feeling, I go with the gut from there. So I think we're consensus on number one. I have Michael Thomas. He'd be the
Oh yeah,
first.
for sure.
He's the first wide receiver that I would take in any draft, PPR or standard. We just know he's going to get fed the ball. Him and Drew Brees are always on the same page. He can attack you at any point of the field, and he's just an elite fantasy football receiver in real life. I mean, you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, it's crazy going to the stats last year when you look at Michael Thomas's, you know, I guess fellow receivers on the New Orleans Saints. There, he's at 80.5, while the second closest one is actually not a receiver; it's actually a tight end with Jared Cook at 66.2 receiving stats, and
Mm-hmm.
then the next receiver isn't until the third one, and that's Ted Ginn Jr., who there's nothing to write home about. I mean, no offense, he was probably at Ohio State, but he hasn't certainly wowed anybody since joining the league. And then you got 53.6 for him, which is
Yeah.
pretty interesting. I know they just added Emmanuel Sanders there. So, what do you think as far as do you think that's going to add to his stats, or is that going to kind of take away, maybe open things up for him? Or
I think it's going to stay the same for Michael Thomas. He'll still be getting that 10, 11 targets per game. But where I think it will hurt is more the middle of the field guys like Cook at tight end. I just think Emmanuel Sanders will be working that middle of the field, and that's where he'll get all his catches at. So I'm actually pretty high on Emmanuel Sanders too. He's lower down on my list, but he's a guy that I want on my team in the later rounds.
you actually picked him in the your last night's draft, didn't you?
I did. I have him and Michael Thomas, so I might have to move on from him, maybe make a trade. But
There
yeah,
you go.
his value is
Just
too good to pass up when I got him.
yeah. What round did you end up getting him in? I know that you're in a 10-man league, correct?
Yeah, I once 10. Where did I get him? I want to say it was like 8 or 9.
It's actually good value for him.
Yeah. Then the
Really
report
good
card stuff. Oh no, I got him in 10. So I kind
value.
of
Oh wow.
passed him up. He's on my bench, but he's a guy that I feel like I could plug and play him on one of those bye weeks or something. So I just like getting players that are part of good offenses. So can never go wrong.
So who's your number? Who's your? Do you have at number two? Is it Devonte Adams, Julio, or
Well,
Julio Jones?
it's like we're talking about that. It's a chunk of guys. I got 4 guys right there. It's Tyreek Hill, Julio Jones, Devonte Adams, and DeAndre Hopkins. So
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I got.
personally, with me, I like Tyreek Hill just because of the big playability. I mean, he doesn't get as many targets as those guys, but he could take anything short or deep straight to the house and get you those touchdowns. And I think he has the best quarterback of all those guys. So Tyreek Hill would be my next next dude out of that grouping.
Yeah, for me, I went with Julio Jones. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't really, yeah, you can't really take a lot from him. I mean, they thought they lost their tight end. They went ahead and got a new one with Hayden Hurst, and then they still have Calvin Ridley, and then they bring in another first round pick in Laquan Treadwell to be your receiver three. Unfortunately, he was drafted to be. He thought to be a receiver one coming out of Ole Miss, but it looks like he's going to stay at number three, which suits well for him. He's a solid number three receiver, and it opens up a little bit more for Julio Jones. I mean, he's always dynamic, always there. He'll, muscle you for the football, in the air. He'll go up for 50-50 balls. Like I was just saying, he has great routes, great speed, and then he, has, the tackle breaking ability to take it to the house if need be.
Yeah,
So that's who I have next. But then I have Tyreek Hill right after him.
I mean, Julio gets over 10 targets a game, average 93 yards per game. So, he's been on that team for some time now. They have the same coaching staff, same quarterback. I expect him to be right up there again, top 3 type of dude.
Exactly. One guy I want to talk to you about, it was hard for me to take him out of the first tier, but he's kind of borderline, kind of one of my only guys that are borderline this is actually Chris Godwin for the Tampa Bay Buccaneer.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it that you have him sitting?
I have him in that next range, just because of the new quarterback type of thing. It takes time to kind of gel and That's why I kind of like guys like Adam Thielen above him, Devontae Adams, of course. But yeah, I have him at number 8. I actually have him and Mike Evans stacked at 8 and 9. It's just because I feel like either one of those guys could be the number one there. So we know Brady doesn't discriminate. He's just going to get it to the open man. So I, you know, I want to chuckle this offense too. So either one of those guys I'll take. Hopefully, as my second wide receiver, but in some drafts they're gonna have to end up being your number one.
Yeah, I have Chris Godwin a little bit more because if you remember that Bruce Aaron offense when he was in Arizona, Larry Fitzgerald was that guy, and yeah, he's an ageless wonder. But I think when it comes to the dynamic portions side of being a receiver, I think you want to give that edge to Chris Godwin, a little bit younger, a little bit faster. May not have all the smarts and skills of the trade yet, but he's definitely on his way there, especially with a quarterback like Tom Brady. As far as Mike Evans goes, I have him a little bit lower. I definitely have him behind the. I have him sitting behind. Let's see here. I have Galladay ahead of him, Adam Thielen ahead of him, Odell Beckham Jr. ahead of him, and Juju ahead of him. And then Mike Evans a little bit lower for me. He needs to prove it a little bit more as far as with, like you said,
Yep.
in that offense. He does have a new quarterback, but I feel like the familiarity with Gronk will help him kind of work on his own thing. So we'll see. Again, if we want to go to the number one in that offense, I'm going to lean a little bit more towards Chris Godwin. But like you said, it's a coin toss to whoever wants to be that number one in that offense.
Yeah, we'll see who Brady falls in love with. But a guy you just mentioned that I'm actually pretty high on. I think I'm higher than both Odell Beckham. I think this is going to be his bounce back year. We've seen him play. We know he's extremely talented, and I think he always has a shot to be the number one type wide receiver for fantasy football. So he's a guy that I think is just going to step it up. He was a little banged up last year, so give him and Baker a little bit of time to get on the same page now. But I think this is his year. He needs to step up and show that he's the same Odell Beckham that he was a couple years ago. So I got Odell Beckham actually above Godwin behind Thielen, so at number
Okay.
7. So
Yeah, I have Thielen a little bit higher only because, yeah, they did draft Jefferson to kind of replace Diggs, but with this whole, weird year going on, I have to go with lean a little bit more Thielen being the number
yep.
one receiver there. But when it comes to Odell Beckham Jr., um, the one thing that I do like is every once in a while you still get those characters who are out there as far as like putting their name out there, it's getting all over social media and whatnot. And we're not hearing that from Odell this year. It seems like he's a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
about all about football. I mean, yeah, he was in the Drake video just recently, but other than that, you don't really hear anything like him whining or complaining about it. I mean, guy's a competitor. He wants to win, and I love that about him. So, actually, I want to ask you. So, if you were Stefanski and you got to choose between Odell and Jarvis or Thielen and Diggs, who would you rather go with?
Thielen and Diggs.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
uh, I I like Jarvis Landry, but I think those other two guys are just in another world. Up there with
Hmm.
Odell Beckham too. So yeah, I'd go with. I really like Stephon Diggs, so I hope he meshes well this year with the Bills, and I always got high hopes for him. So yeah, I'd go with that Thielen and Diggs combo. I think they were the best combo in the league before they got separated. So yeah.
Speaking of which, where is it that you have Diggs?
So the next group after what is it number 9 where I had Mike Evans. This next group are just I feel like it just gets kind of mucky. And I have Diggs all the way down at number 22, which I think I'm a little bit higher than most on there too. I know his ADP is 26. Fantasy Football Pros had him at 27. So it's just he's going to be the number one receiver there. The negative things is he is on a new team. He needs to mesh with that new quarterback who's not particularly well at throwing it deep down the field and they're more of a run-based offense. They're at the bottom of the league in pass attempts per game, but Diggs isn't a guy that only runs deep routes. He can run short routes in the middle of the field, intermediate stuff. So I just think his talent's too good to pass up after wide receiver 20.
I think he can even give him on the end around as well. I know he did that a little bit at Maryland as far as the end around stuff. I don't think that's really in the Bills' forte to do that, but he definitely has that option. I do think he's very versatile in his skill set when it comes to receiver, like you were saying. I do have him in my second tier group of guys. A little, I have him behind Thielen, only because when it comes to Minnesota, like I was saying, Thielen seems to be the main guy there. When it comes to Buffalo, I know they got quite a bit of guys to feed there. As far as you got Cole there, and then you got a few no name receivers, but they already have that mesh, there with Josh Allen. So we'll see what happens with that.
I just think Cole Beasley has his role. We know he's going to be that slot, short, intermediate guy. And then John Brown, I just never have faith in. I know he did decent last year as his first time playing 16 games, I think, in his career. But Stephon Diggs is just so much better than those guys.
I'm gonna name off a few guys, and I want to see who comes out highest.
Yep.
I know Juju's mainly in the slot now, so
Yep.
I'm gonna go ahead and go. In no particular order. I'm just listing them off. I have Juju. Gonna give you Cooper Cup, and then also Cortland Sutton. Where do you have those guys ranked? I'm gonna throw in a fourth guy with DJ Moore. Where do you have those guys?
DJ Moore. So the funny part is if I had to take a wide receiver just outside of fantasy football, it'd be Cortland Sutton. But for fantasy wise, I have him the lowest out of all those guys. And it's just because of the team he's on. I think just going back and watching him, I think he's a really good wide receiver. And it's the quarterback. He didn't really have many like really high top five scoring weeks last year, so I have him down at 23. Um, the two guys I'm the highest on, and they're stacked right at 14 and 15, is Cooper Cup and DJ Moore. Cooper Cup and DJ Moore, both of those guys, they're going to get a lot of targets this year. We know Cooper Cup is just Jared Goff's favorite target on the team. So I like that offense still. I think it has a lot of potential. It should get back on track this year, but Cooper Cup, man, he's without that injury. If you look back at all his stats, he would be a top 10 wide receiver since he got in the league, which is pretty impressive. I know we've liked him since he showed out at the Senior Bowl before he got drafted. DJ Moore, he's got a new quarterback. I have him a little bit lower, and that's just because he needs to develop a little bit more chemistry with Teddy Bridgewater and kind of prove it to me. I have him as I like to pick wide receivers based on offenses and how good their quarterbacks are, and I have Teddy Bridgewater ranked as number 30 quarterback. So I just don't really like that. Then Juju Smith-Schuster, I have at 17. I think he's going to do better than he did last year. I think he kind of fell off last year. I don't know if he was hurt or what it was, but he just wasn't playing that well. But I got him with Big Ben making a big comeback. He only averaged 48 yards per game last year. So now that he's back in the slot, hopefully Deontay Johnson takes a little bit of the attention away from him to get back to work.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, Deontay Johnson, I'm actually pretty excited to see him this year. If you go back and look at third down completion rate, he's actually in there in the top three with Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle. I think he's in the 80% over there. But yeah, I do like Cooper Cup a little bit more. Like you were saying, he meshes really well with Goff. Curious to see if DJ Moore kind of takes on the Jamar Chase type of role there that Joe Brady had over there with LSU. Then it leaves a little bit more for Curtis Samuel to be kind of roaming free. Um, I don't really have Curtis Samuel in the top receivers, but I'm hoping I would love to see a breakout year for him. I don't think he's going to be one of the top tier guys, but for him to kind of finally utilize all the skill set that I did have coming out of Ohio State when they drafted him, that would be pretty exciting to see. Um, let's see here. Another top guys that I want to talk about with you. Okay, I know his quarterback play is a little bit inconsistent, and this is another guy like you were saying as far as Cortland Sutton, wishing that he was on a newer team and uh, with more consistent quarterback play. Allen Robinson used to be the guy. He was the man in Jacksonville. He did it with Blake Bortles. He's in more in a little bit shakier situation with the Chicago Bears. He showed a little bit uh, last year, and it wasn't really consistent because of, like, the quarterback play with Trubisky. But now he does have Nick Foles, who seems to be. I would like to see him start, but I don't. But we'll see. I know they really haven't announced it. I'd like to see Foles start a little bit. Maybe he can't really do anything outside of Philly. But yeah, where's you have Allen Robinson?
I have him high, but I haven't taken him in any of my drafts yet. I actually had the opportunity, and I kind of passed on him last night. I have him at number 10. So he's a guy that I just think he's really talented. It's just on this team, I had him last year. He gets a lot of targets that are shorter. They don't really hit him down the field. And you can tell he gets frustrated too, just running and getting up and not getting the ball. So I know he has like most of his finishes for each game is around the wide receiver too. So if I can get him as my second wide receiver, I'd probably take him there. But what I think I like about him the most is his red zone play. He just always seems to get open and make those plays in the end zone to boost up your fantasy score. So
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and go off with some guys with some new quarterbacks, and I want to see where you have these guys ranked respectively. So you got new quarterbacks coming in. Looks like you got Terry McLaurin. You have AJ Green, Julian Edelman, Brandon Cooks, and then yeah, let's just go with those guys. Where is it that you guys have? Where do you have those guys? Who's higher on your list?
I
Oh, then I'll throw in T.Y. Hilton.
T.Y.
Sorry, that's the guy I forgot.
worries. So the guy that I'm highest on is Terry McLaurin. I think he can get over 120 targets this year. I mean, who else are they really going to pass it to? Um, I just think he has that really high upside. They do have the new coaching staff coming in that could hopefully turn some things around there. But I just like Terry McLaurin's ability, and he's another one of those guys that I think just makes the most out of every catch that he has. The second guy who I've been trying to target and get him is Brandon Cooks, and it's because I think Deshaun Watson loves throwing that deep ball, and I think he's a really good deep ball wide receiver. So we've also seen he's been on so many teams, and it doesn't really take him that long to warm up. It seems like right the first year that he's on a new team, he busts out and has 1,200 yards and just gets right back on the horse like he was on the team, for years prior. So those are the two
He's
guys.
kind of like that. He's kind of like that mercenary receiver, just
Yeah,
wherever he goes, chameleon. You know what I mean?
and I don't know why
But
he
yeah,
gets
I'm sorry.
traded so much. I mean, he seems like a good personality. He's not like a hothead or diva wide receiver, but everywhere he goes, he usually puts in work. So I like that. The third guy would probably be AJ Green. It's just because we've seen what AJ Green can do. He's been an elite wide receiver multiple times in the past. He was hurt. I think he's a little frustrated being in Cincinnati still. He wants out of there. But now he's got Joe Burrow, who I think is a great talent and can get him the ball down the field. I have Joe Burrow still ranked pretty low as the 24th quarterback out of 32. So he's got to kind of prove it a little bit more to me. But yeah, AJ Green would be third. He also said, who was it? T.Y. Hilton.
Yes.
I have T.Y. Hilton right between Cooks and AJ Green at number 30. And, I would definitely take Cooks over him. Um, yeah, he's in the right spot. It's just T.Y. Hilton is another one of those deep ball specialty guys. And Philip Rivers, his arm last year, I had Keenan Allen. And just watching him, it seemed like a struggle for him to get that damn ball out, especially down the field. So maybe a guy like Michael Pittman or Doyle or one of those other guys will be his favorite target. We'll see. But yeah, we know he likes those big body guys. So T.Y. Hilton, I think he's a great player. It's just I'm kind of iffy on his situation right now.
Yeah. All right. Who is your highest rookie on your list?
The highest rookie I have is C.D. Lamb.
Yeah,
I,
same here. I'm
my
pretty
top,
excited to see him.
yeah, my top three are C.D. Lamb. Number two is Brandon Ayuk. Number four is Jalen Rager. And I haven't got C.D. Lamb in any of my drafts this year. It's that the hype on him is getting him picked pretty early. I have him as the number 39 wide receiver, which I think he could outplay that. It's just another one of those rookie things where I got to see it. He might even be the number three option on the team behind Gallup and Amari Cooper. So I don't really like that. I think he'll end up being a favorite of Dax, though, just moving in and being a big slot guy. So I like that. To Brandon Ayuk is the one that I've been trying to target the most, and it's because he's part of that San Francisco offense, and any chunk of that thing that I can get, I'll take. He could start off being the number one wide receiver there if Deebo Samuel's isn't ready to go. So yeah, Brandon Ayuk is a guy that I really like to get on my team later on in the draft. I have him at 45, and at 48, Jalen Rager, and it's another one of those things. He's very explosive. He's a explosive player. He's one of my favorites coming out in this draft at the wide receiver spot. I think he'll probably be the number two target there behind Ertz, but we know even guys like Dallas Goedert and uh, even Sanders out of the backfield gets targets. So the way their offense is, I think he could still break out. So Jalen Rager, guys like Henry Ruggs, I don't know how he's going to mesh that well with Carr. Jerry Judy, he's going to be the number two target with a quarterback that I don't really like that much. And then over Pittman and Justin Jefferson, the guy that I have at number 55 is actually Devin Duvernay from Texas. And I just think
Oh
he
wow.
has great ability, and they need another wide receiver there. And I think he could be that guy.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I'd figure you'd be a little bit higher on rugs, but makes sense being that. I actually I'm not really high on rugs. I was pretty excited for him to come out of Alabama. It's not they're in a bad situation there in Oakland or Las Vegas, I should say. But when it came to rookie receivers going over there, I was more excited for Brian Edwards, and it seems like I'm hearing a lot,
Yeah.
um, a lot out of him coming out of that Raiders camp, and we'll definitely see when it comes to it. But one rookie that I have over Ruggs and Judy is actually Michael Pittman for the reasons that you were talking about. Why T.Y. Hilton most likely won't get the shine. Um, when you combine Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, I have a feeling that you get Michael Pittman.
Mm-hmm.
I say that only because he's not. When it comes to route running, he's not as clean, kind of like Michael Williams. But he'll go up and grab the ball. He'll muscle you for it, as we can see his college film when he was going against USC there, or when he's going against Utah there. I'm pretty excited to see Michael Pittman Jr. kind of take off over there with Indy. He has a veteran quarterback over there in Phillip Rivers, and then I think he can also mesh well if Jacoby Brissett comes in and he wants to throw up to somebody. Another younger guy that I'm excited to see. You said he was explosive. Is Jalen Rager.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Rager only because when you look into him, I mean, you have a younger guy that's a little bit more explosive than Deshaun Jackson. Especially at his age now. Jeffrey's most likely going to start the year on the pup list, and then with the inconsistency with J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, you don't know what's going to go on there. So I think when it comes to seeing a lot of target share, I think Jagan Rager, especially week one, is getting a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked him up on my team, and it's hard because like we were talking about before we got on, we need to pick up a kicker or something, and I might just roll week one without a kicker. We'll see. Just keep him on my bench, keep him on my team
Yeah, get
because I feel
a
like it's a
scout
valuable
weekend.
asset. Oh yeah. So a couple second year guys I'd like to talk about. Let's see here. You got oh man, you got Darius Slayton, you got Miko Hardman, and then let's go ahead and throw in. We were talking about McLaurin. So yeah, who do you have higher, either Darius Slayton or Miko Hardman?
Uh,
Hardman.
it's going to be Hardman, and I have him at 42. And this is a guy that I think he's another, he's a part of this offense that you want a piece of. He could go over the top and have a big play at any moment. But I don't really like those. He's probably going to be the third, maybe even the fourth option in the passing game, of course, behind Tyreek Hill and Kelsey. So just his opportunity might not be there as much as you would like. Last year, I kind of think I don't think he did as good as I thought he was going to do in that offense. So we know Sammy Watkins is still going to be there getting in snaps, but McCall Hardman, I think this should be his breakout year. I think they mainly played him like as a returner type guy last year, so I think this is just the step he needs to take and show that he could be a big part of this offense moving forward. The other guy was Slayton, Darius Slayton. He's
Yes.
I think so. We know Evan Ingram's there to, take a lot of targets and even Shepard. So these guys might be in the same thing where they're either going to be like the number 2 or 3 target on the team. He does have a new coach, which we'll see how that works out. But I do like him. I think he actually could end up being the number 1 wide receiver there. So I have him projected with about 112 targets, which is pretty damn good.
Oh yeah.
But my favorite thing about him is I do the points per catch. It just shows how much they get out of each reception. And he's at 4.65 points per catch. And I think that's number 2 in the entire NFL. Number 3 in the entire NFL, and that was behind A.J. Brown and Kenny Golladay. So both of those guys we know are explosive and make big plays. So Darius Slayton's right up there with them. And the 2 guys underneath him are Mike Evans and Adam Thielen. So that just shows you the company that he's in with just making plays on the ball.
All right, let's go into some sleepers. Do you have anybody that's you're kind of leaning towards the end of your draft, or someone that you're kind of seeing to probably grow on a little bit later in the year that you want to take a flyer on?
Yeah, guys that I'm using the last pick usually is I used it last night. It's Alshon Jeffrey. No one wants him at all. I know he's hurt right now, but I think he's expected to get back on track. I mean, he's been a good wide receiver there before, and especially with that last pick, uh, if Rager doesn't end up working out like they need him to be that number 1 wide receiver, Deshaun Jackson gets hurt again, Alshon Jeffrey could be seeing a lot of targets. So outside of Ertz, I think it'd be Alshon Jeffrey next. Another guy, a rookie who I'm kind of excited to see this year is Laviska Shenault. I think he's just going to
Oh,
be
okay.
in a lot of different ways. So I have him with around 120 touches. So that's combined receptions and running the ball. I think he's going to get a little bit of everything there. Leonard Fournette kind of seems like he's in the doghouse right now. He doesn't want to be there. So I'm just excited to see exactly what he does. So those are 2 guys. One more, I mentioned Devin Duvernay earlier. He's a guy that I would take a shot on just because Baltimore's offense, you want as much as these high octane offenses as you can get. And Devin Duvernay, I think he could end up being that number 2, especially if Marquise Brown keeps getting hurt. We see he's a small stature type of guy. And Devin Duvernay is a playmaker. He's way bigger. And yeah, a guy that I would take the shot on. Oh, one more guy, Randall Cobb. I think Randall Cobb could
Really?
could be a
Okay.
good could be a good PPR guy this year. Same thing. It's who else is he? We got the deep guy with Cooks, and I already said
Yeah.
I was high on him. And then Randall Cobb get those intermediate stuff. So they don't really have a tight end. They have a couple other wide receivers who we know get hurt a lot. So Randall Cobb, I love Deshaun Watson, so I have him at number 58, a wide receiver. So yeah, last picks. Those are the guys I'd go with.
A few of my sleepers, I got Justin Jefferson from the Vikings. He was a star receiver at LSU. Hopefully that he can mesh well with Kirk Cousins. If he does, he can probably fit into that Stephon Diggs role pretty easily. I already talked about Jalen Rager. Let's see here. I'm going with Alan Lazard. I know he had some injuries beforehand, and they brought they brought in Devin Funchess, but with him opting out, I think that leaves Lazard in a position to have major playing time and get a lot of targets. And in his last 7 games, he had at least 40-yard receiving in each game. So hopefully that being opposite of Devontae Adams will kind of up his ante a little bit. Van Jefferson, another rookie from the Rams.
Mhm.
He's been around football his whole life. As far as his dad's a receiving coach for the New York Jets over there, and then with him being a great route runner and with Cooks being gone there, I think he's going to get a fair share of it. I know he's going to have to battle with Reynolds there, but when it comes to, I would like to lean towards Van Jefferson strictly because of route runners. Let's see here. Another guy I like to bring on. I mean, I know you like this guy coming out of college, and I'm hoping with the departure of Taylor Gabriel, if you look at the numbers when Gabriel wasn't in the game, his target share actually went up. Is actually Anthony Miller.
Mhm.
Anthony Miller hasn't really shined the way that we wanted to see him coming out of Memphis, but I'm hoping and he meshes well with either Foles or Trubisky, and he becomes a reliable target, down low. You got Allen Robinson on the outside there, but I can't really think of anybody else there besides Jimmy Graham that will catch, some targets for him. But
Yep.
yeah, I'm gonna go with Anthony Miller as my last sleeper there.
I love Anthony Miller. He was a guy that was a late round target for me last year. It was really frustrating watching that offense because he's another guy that I always felt like, well, he's open, he's just not getting the ball. So he played 16 games, had 52 catches. He needs way more catches than that. He's a weapon that needs to be utilized.
When drafting, do you have a typical player that you always want on your team?
I try not to do that. Like in our family league, when a lot of times I always try not to go with my heart, but when it's two guys, it was like Zeke or
Chris
Saquon
McCaffrey?
Barkley. Saquon Barkley. I had to take Zeke. It's just I'm going to be rooting for the Cowboys. I don't want to be rooting against them twice a year, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just little things like that. I actually try to avoid guys like Amari Cooper because I'm going to want to start him a lot and play. So I know he's pretty inconsistent. 33% of Amari Cooper's weeks last year were bust weeks, which means outside of the top 24. So 1 out of 3 weeks, he's not going to be a number 1 or a number 2 wide receiver for you. So guys like that. CD Lamb, he would be a guy that I would probably have a lot of high standards for, and I think that he would bust out. So I kind of try to stay away from guys like that. It's just Zeke, he's going to get fed the ball. He led the NFL in red zone touches last year. So he's just a guy that, of course, I can get behind. But I have to say, if like last night I got Michael Thomas, I'd love to get Michael Thomas on every team that I have. Yeah, I don't really have one guy that I've been targeting. One guy that I actually have is because we do have IR spots in the leagues that I'm in, and there's a little cheat code if you take Debo Samuel, and that's same thing with Alshon Jeffrey. If you take those guys in your draft, and once the draft is entered, you could move them to that IR spot and pick up an extra player. So
There you go.
I've been targeting some of those guys that are already on IR so that I can get an extra player. So So yeah,
That's a good little strategy right there. For
exactly.
me, one guy that I always like to be drafted on all my teams is Keenan Allen. Just
Hmm.
a big fan of him. That's just me being a homer. Just he went to Cal, local boy over here at Berkeley. Um, always loved his gameplay. Love that he blocks. Love that he's just one of my favorite receivers all around in the game today. But when it comes to Homer, picking some of my 49ers, one guy that I did not get to, I kind of waited because his average draft position in a round is around 3 to 5.
Hmm.
And I was kind of waiting on him there, but he got picked in round 2, and that's George Kittle. Um, takes that fair share of that offense. A good. He's always good for a breaking a tackle for a long touchdown. That's so I'm excited to see him with the football in his hands. Another guy, Drew Brees, just quarterback. Just gets that ball out quick. Doesn't really throw interceptions. One thing that he does throw is either touchdowns, first downs, or he just gets the ball out quickly. And he always is driving up that stat line. So I always like to have him on my team because of that.
Yep.
But yeah, that's about it. Do you have anybody else that you want to touch on?
One guy I did want to ask you about because I drafted him last night. And Yahoo said it was a reach. Was Christian Kirk? What do you think of him this year? I think he's going to take
Christian,
over this year and be that number two, and even Hopkins will open up some more stuff, some underneath things for
that's one thing I do like. I think Christian Kirk is actually gonna feel a lot of pressure lifted off of him.
him.
He was drafted kind of high coming out of Texas A&M, but in that offense, being that it's so spread out, I think he's going to see a lot of touches underneath.
Yep.
You get DeAndre Hopkins out there, then you got Larry Fitz, and then he's going to start coming into his own. It may not be immediate, but I think by week 3, Christian Kirk is actually going to be a pretty reliable target right there for Kyler Murray. I don't think that's a reach unless you drafted him like in the 4th round,
No,
but you know,
forget where
I I like I like Christian Kirk. I don't feel that's a reach. I
I got him in
I'd
the
like to.
11th round. And
Oh, that's not a reach
yeah, and they said
whatsoever.
they said that was so yeah, that was one that I was like, really? I have high hopes from this year. I mean, last year he already averaged 8.3 targets per game. So if he just keeps that up this year, I'll be more than happy with that. Walk away with 5, 6 catches. You know, that's about a 60% catch rate. Then yeah, I would love that. So yeah, Christian Kirk was one of them. Anyone else? Anyone else on here? What do you think of Julian Edelman this year? Okay.
Uh, I don't. I think it mainly relies on what Nikhil Harry will do.
Mm-hmm.
As far as pass catchers, though, I know they brought in a couple tight ends. You got Nikhil Harry there. You got Julian Edelman there. I know they had a lot of players opted out. I just need to look at their depth chart real quick. But Julian Edelman's always a reliable target. It's just going to be weird to see him without his old friend Tom there.
Yeah,
But
I do think he's
I
going to
I
be
just
the number one option there. It's just I
yeah
have the note that I have beside him is take him as my number four, my fourth wide receiver, and he gets a lot of targets, especially when there's no tight ends in that offense. But this offense just might change so much without Tom Brady. We know Bill Belichick's not going to just stay in one lane and one offense, one type of thing. He molds his team to their strength. And Julian Edelman, he's one of those guys where he was really low on the point per catch. Um, so he needs a ton of volume. And what I think he was best at was in the red zone. He did him and Tom Brady were just on the same page a lot, and that chemistry is out the window now that Cam Newton's there. So he's a guy that I just have dropped back probably too far, but I kind of don't want to take a chance on him this year.
yeah. I forgot that they actually have Sanu there too. Um, yeah, I wouldn't take a chance on him. Maybe in the later rounds. But yeah, he was one of the guys that if Tom was there and it was a little bit more consistency in that New England household, that I definitely would pick him a little bit higher, probably in like the 5 or 6 kind of rounds. But other than that, um, yeah, it's it's kind of hard for me to steer there because you need to rely on Nikhil Harry, who didn't really come into his own last year, Jacoby Myers, who's second year guy, and then Mohamed Sanu. And we don't know who's going to start at quarterback. Is it going to be Cam Newton? Is it going to be Jared Stidham or Brian Hoyer,
It's going to be.
or is it going to be platoon type of guys? We're not 100% sure yet.
I think it's going to be Cam all the way. They're just doing their Patriot thing. One last guy that I have that we didn't talk about, Devontae Parker in Miami. So he still got an old Fitzgerald there, and maybe the young Tua might take over. But he played really well last year. He was number 8 in top 10 fantasy football weeks. He was averaging what is that? He was averaging eight targets a game. I know that it might switch a little bit, but he's a guy with a lot of ability that if he was on another team, he might be really shining. So he's a guy that I'm kind of keeping my eye on. I don't have him on any teams yet. It's just right now I have him at number 28 ranked overall. ADP is going 29. So honestly, the guys that I have around that, I'll probably take them over him, which I have been, which would be Marquise Brown or Brandon Cooks, or right above and below him. Um, but Devontae Parker is a guy that I want to see if he keeps it up this year.
Yeah, Devontae Parker, he'd be. I really hope that he, comes into his own. He was kind of a late bloomer over there, coming out of Louisville. Um, Hopefully, he comes into his own. Like I was just saying, I know that his running mate Preston Williams, who was actually a star coming out of Colorado State last year, tore his ACL, but he's already out there on the field running around and everything. They got the young slot guy there too, Jakeem Grant. Hopefully that opens things up for him. Devontae Parker seems like he has a good meshing point with Fitzgerald. I know Fitzgerald just experienced a loss there with his mom, but he should be back there on the field, before week 1. So uh, Devontae Parker and Preston Williams, I kind of have by the same. Um, Most people would put Preston Williams down a little bit further because of that torn ACL, but I've seen him run. I've seen him cut on it, and it seems not to be bothering him. Hopefully, it doesn't. I just really, I don't know. When it comes to those two, I'm gonna have to lean more towards Williams than Devontae Parker, only because Devontae Parker hasn't really been. He's upset me a few times. So
One last thing, just for why I love Alshon Jeffrey is that last pick uh, per game. We know he didn't finish the season last year, but he was averaging 9 targets a game, which that just shows the chemistry that he was on with Wentz, and that was number 12 in the NFL. So if you're going to give me a top 15 target guy, then yes, I'll take him in the last round at any time. And we do point for first down, and
yeah.
he was number 6 in first downs per game. He was getting 4.2 first downs per game. So that's a guy that I just like targeting at the very end.
Now, if Alshon Jeffrey wasn't hurt, do you think he'd go a little bit higher, or do you think because he gets hurt so often, or is it because?
I think because he gets hurt so often, they got the rookie going in there. People love Deshaun Jackson coming in. Um, I just think people are sleeping on Alshon Jeffrey. They might even think he's old. He's only 29 years old. I mean, he just got to stay healthy. I mean, that's where at that point of the draft, the last 2, 3 rounds. I mean, it's risk reward. I mean, you got to give up some uh, guys that might not be the healthiest for just that upside. So that's why I like him there.
Yeah, I know that he what was that Liz Frank injury that he had, and he had surgery about 8.5 months ago. Still, I think he's still on the unable to perform list over there at the beginning of training camp. But yeah, I mean that's a great pick in the late one. Someone to stash on your IR, and if he comes into his own, it's gonna be a great pick.
Yep. And one piece of news that just came out, I see there's a little flag on my Jalen Rager pick. He hurt his shoulder today and left practice and
No.
not returned back. So they're going to get some scans on that shoulder to see how severe the injury is. So hopefully it's nothing big. I want to see him play this year.
Yeah, I just got that. He's on my family one stuff with shoulder injury in practice.
Yep, that was today.
Oh god, he's holding this thing.
So,
Oh god. Hopefully it's nothing serious. Hopefully
yeah,
it's just like a bone bruise.
yep. So, yeah, I think that's about it for wide receivers.
Alrighty. So where do you want to go next? You want to go tight? Do you want to bother with the tight ends, even though we know there's probably only like three tight ends that are worth drafting?
Yeah, I'm down to cover tight ends. That'll probably be a much quicker show, but yeah, we can dive into tight ends and put together. I'm pretty sure we know who the first two guys are going to be, but we'll slap together a list to show you the potential of the rest of the guys. All right, man. That it?
All right. Sounds good. Well, all right. Anything to say before we get out of here? I think
No,
that's
just
it.
check out the channel. We've already
All right.
covered quarterbacks. We've covered running backs. We actually have 2 episodes on running backs. So dive in and get caught up on fantasy football.
All right. That'll do it.
All
See
right.
you guys later.
Perfect. 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 Now, are
I
you
feel
gonna
like that one.
are you gonna use the IR trick against me now in family league?
I can't. Like I think you already drafted him, right? You already drafted Devo.
Yeah, I
I
drafted.
should.
I almost got Curtis Samuel.
I shouldn't even said anything. I should. I was
I
like, "What the
know.
fuck are you going, with Curtis Samuel?" I was like, "Sweet." I was like, "All right, all right." And then because I just read a report saying that Curtis Samuel might be coming into his own.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, "All right, yeah." Like he might have read that same report. All right, cool. I'm gonna let him go with it. I was like, "So why'd you go Curtis Samuel?" Like, "Oh, I
Yeah,
went Devo Samuel." Like,
yeah,
what?
yeah. Thank God. Funny thing happened last night. I think it was round. Oh man, what round was it? Blake. He drafted Darius Geis.
No
Yeah,
way.
yeah. Blake, let me
Did
see.
anybody say anything?
Yeah, everyone laughed, but he already put the sticker on the thing. So he's like, "Oh, what the hell?" And BB told him, and then he whips out his phone and he reads it. Uh, he's like, "Damn it, he choked and slapped a woman or something like that." And then he's like, "He's innocent." I was like, "Yeah, all 14 women or whatever are lying," because even more girls came out against him. But yeah, poor Blake, he got stuck with Darius guy. I don't even think he's dropped him yet either. Let's see.
Where'd you guys have the draft at? Your mom's?
No, at the park.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah, actually, yeah, he got Darius Geis in the 11th round, but it's pretty funny. Pretty funny. John didn't know Debo was hurt. He drafted Debo pretty early because he had him last year. Who else? He drafted Debo. He drafted Debo. He got back-to-back injured players. I remember because Marcel's like, "Are you dropping off the IR list?" Uh,
Oh yeah, I'm seeing it right now. He drafted at Montgomery.
oh, was it Montgomery? Yeah, yeah, Montgomery and Debo back to back.
Ew, he drafted. Why would he draft Carr?
Yeah, he dropped. Well, he was like on. He was happy that he was the last guy to get a quarterback, and so he ended up with Big Ben and Carr.
Yeah, that's whack.
Like, ugh. So
Who's the Toon Squad?
that's my buddy Mo.
The Mo.
Who else?
Oh, he's got a solid team.
I think Camel Turf Joe is a good team. Lee, he did good. DB did decent. I do like mine, even though I don't have a.
North Bay Hustlers. He's like, he never changes his name.
Yeah,
Damn, you had Josh Jacobs pretty high.
he's the Raider fan,
Yeah,
and he had the last pick, so he knew he wasn't going to be there on the comeback.
yeah,
So
very
yeah,
true.
Henry, Jacobs, Evans, Cooper, McLaurin. Yeah, it's not bad. Dak in the 6th round. James White, Tyler Boyd, Owen.
There you go. You got Hunt.
I got Hunt. Well, if you look, my I'm so wide receiver strong because of my first two
Yeah.
picks. So I went running back, and then all my running backs after that are guys that if someone goes down, they'll be at number one. So Hunt,
I like that Woods pick.
Coleman, Latavius Murray, Pollard, Edmonds, DeAndre Washington. We'll see. I'll probably end up having to drop Edmonds and Washington. But yeah, so I just try to get high upside guys. If the injury happens, these dudes will take over.
For sure.
Uh, I don't know why I'm not. I got Robert Woods, but I'm not too excited about it.
I think that's a good pick.
Yeah,
Damn, dude.
me too. It's just,
Mahomes and Jackson went in round one.
yep, I love that. Go ahead,
Hell
take that,
yeah.
dudes. I was thinking about if I got the last pick, I was gonna go Kittle.
Oh yeah.
I was
That
gonna
would have
go
been a good
running
one.
back in Kittle just because I'd want to be good at, have a top player at one of those positions that would have been tight end. But and so my wide receivers, well, I love that I got Mark Andrews and Russell Wilson at the spots I got him in. Mark Andrews in the sixth, Russell Wilson in the eighth. Those guys are studs.
Yeah.
I didn't have to pay a huge price for them.
I'm not a big fan of Gary's team.
Very, you got a B minus on Yahoo.
Not a huge fan.
Gary goes by the book.
Yeah.
Kamara, Devontae Adams, Mossington, Juju, David Johnson, we'll see. Chark, all right. Oh, he loves AJ Green. He always gets AJ Green. DeAndre Swift. Tom Brady. We got Brady in the 10th. Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully I win some more money.
Yes, sir.
All right, brother. I'll get this shit up ASAP.
All right, man. Sounds good. I'll see you.
Later.